Thank you everybody for coming. All right, so you get a notification. One of your repositories, oh, please don't do this to me now. I don't want Discord. You get a notification that something in one of your repos has a vulnerability in it, and you immediately know that that CVE is kind of out there in the world, that your customers are maybe using Guac or tools like that, and they now know that there's a vulnerable dependency in your stuff. What are you going to do about it? Well, that's what this talk is going to be all about. And we're talking about this XKCD problem of you've got a dependency, probably a transitive dependency somewhere deep down the stack, possibly a solo maintainer, and maybe they're off on vacation and not taking care of things as urgently as you might be worried about it. So hi, I'm Chris. I'm an open source maintainer. I work at a company called Atsign, where we're building a platform for end-to-end encryption based on personal data services. And so we care a lot about security. Our customers care that our stuff is helping them with their security. And so that gets me into Scorecard and a whole bunch of other OpenSSF stuff. So without spending too much time about it, these are the steps that we try and go through when we know that we've got a vulnerable dependency and it hasn't already been fixed. So step one, check to see if there's already an issue or a pull request out there. Step two, raise an issue. Step three, submit a PR with the fix for the issue. And then finally, step four, if we must, fork the repo and then publish a variant of it. And what this is all about is being respectful as possible to upstream maintainers. So trying to work with upstream maintainers to get fixes in place rather than just kind of running off and doing forks at the first signs of any kind of problem. So why am I talking about rules of engagement? Well, rules of engagement is a term that comes from the military. And it basically boils down to when are you allowed to start shooting at people? And so, for us, our rules of engagement with upstream maintainers is when do we feel that we have to start forking stuff because we've tried everything else and it wasn't working. This is a card that's taken from the Wikipedia entry for rules of engagement, not the TV series. There's a few more of these out there on the internet, and most of them have still got their protective marking on them, so I was a bit wary about doing that. But basically, a lot of these things say you're not allowed to shoot at anybody until they've started shooting at you. So step one, check first. Here is an example of a Dependabot security alert that kind of passed my eyes in the last year or so, September the 8th, 2023. And it was saying, path traversal problem in the archive package. And so in this case, when we went and looked, somebody had already raised an issue. It's probably that issue that had actually resulted in the CVE, that had resulted in the Dependabot alert. And the package maintainer was kind of already taking care of this. So the package at that point had only just been published, but everything was kind of working as intended. So, as Krob was saying earlier, that path had been followed. And I think most of what we're talking about here is when that hasn't kind of happened as we expect, when there's CVEs out there, but there aren't fixed packages already at our disposal. So this brings us on to step two. Raise an issue. So this is an example that was raised by Colin, our CTO and co-founder. We were using a package that was for encoding, and he tripped across an issue where if you put two Unicode unicorns together, then it messed up the encoding. And this one had a happy ending. And so, we waited a little bit, and how long you wait for is one of those how long is a piece of string kind of questions. But in that case, the maintainer came back to us, the issue was resolved, He came up with a fix and all was good. So you've raised an issue, nothing's happened. Time to get to step 3, which is raise a PR. And again, we can see this one got merged. So this again had a happy ending. So this was a different encoding package. And in this case, the Dart programming language we were using was migrating to null safety. And that particular package hadn't done the migration. So somebody in our team kind of basically did the necessary work, went along with the PR. That PR was offered up to the maintainer, and the maintainer in this case took the PR, merged it, happy days. We had to wait a little bit, and again, this is a question that you might have to grapple with a bit. Sometimes you might feel that the urgency is there, that you fork and maybe have a private fork and maybe move your dependencies to your private fork for a duration while you're waiting for this stuff to happen. And if I look at how some large organizations are making use of their dependencies and understanding of dependencies, and especially transitive dependencies, you get to a point where you're kind of working off a private fork of everything, and that gives you the latitude to maybe temporarily play around with those private forks and offer the changes upstream, and hopefully everything gets fixed. But lastly, step 4, we come to this reluctantly fork and publish a variant stage. And we found ourselves having to do this a few times. And it normally happens because of abandoned packages. So somebody created a useful piece of open source, we adopted it, or it was adopted by another package that we adopted, and it's kind of way down in the dependency pile. And then, they lost interest. The company they were working for got shut down. There were all kinds of reasons for why this happens. And I was at a package maintainers summit not long ago where we were trying to think of better ways of governing the package ecosystem without kind of choking the innovation that goes on in it. And there was no appetite for making it harder to publish packages just so that we could make it so that people were being more professional about their package publishing. So here's one that we forked. It was that same UTF-7 from earlier. So, a year or so ago, this package maintainer was active and receptive to issues and PRs. Something else came along that was critical, and they weren't receptive anymore. So we created our fork, and that fork then got published into pub.dev, which is one of the package repositories, in this case for Dart and Flutter. And I think one of the important things here is to ensure that you're still acknowledging the original work. Don't just fork something and make it look like you did it, but accept that there was original input from elsewhere, but for reasons that can then be pointed to of this problem's arisen, the maintainer seems to be not responding anymore, that you've had to do a fork. And there's packages we're working with now where actually it's like the 3rd or 4th fork. So there's an SSH package for Dart, which started out as Dart SSH2, Dart SSH, and then there's Dart SSH2. We're presently running a private fork of Dart SSH2, and I went and looked for it yesterday, and somebody's published Dart SSH4. I don't know quite what happened to 3, but these things kind of have a given life, and then maybe become zombie for a while, and then other people pick them up and run with them. So to recap then, simple 4-step rules of engagement for working with upstream maintainers. Number 1, look first, check to see if there's already an issue or a PR. Step 2, raise an issue and give them some time to respond to that issue. Step 3, actually do the work, hand the work over and submit a PR and give some time for a response to that PR. And only when all of those things have failed is it time to fork the repo and publish a variant. So I did a little blog post about this a while back. So you'll find that at blog.atsign.dev, steps before forking. And thank you for your time. I don't know if I've got time for questions. We're over now because of the projector problems, but you will find me around for the rest of the day. So thanks for coming. And if you want to talk about this stuff, look forward to having a chat. Thank you.